guys, it's Melanie. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do an unboxing of the Once Upon a Book Club Bookish Advent Calendar. So stay tuned. So I know you have seen me do unboxings of my Once Upon a Book Club subscription box. And I absolutely love that box. It's one of my all-time favorite subscription boxes. I think it's so very, very cool. You get a book, you get bookish goodies that go along with them. Each one's individually wrapped. And as you're reading the story, you get to points in the book that have post-it notes that say, open your gift for page whatever. And then you go and you find the gift that has that page number on it and you open it up. And it always corresponds with something in the story. And I just think it's the coolest thing. And you've probably also seen me unbox my Once Upon a Book Club phone case subscription box, where every month I get a new bookish phone case. Like right now I've got on the Snow Queen by Hans Christian Andersen, and I absolutely adore this phone case. And it has a place for your cards and a little magnetic clasp, and just love it. And it also comes with some goodies that go along with whatever the theme for that box is. This is the first ever bookish advent calendar I've ever seen, and Once Upon a Book Club has done it, and I am so freaking excited. I've unboxed some other advent calendars and I've always wanted a bookish one, and I'm just so tickled that they created this. So I'm not gonna do it individually one at a time throughout my vlog as I originally planned. I can't stand it, I can't wait. I need to open it all now. So I thought I would show you. And I will link all of the Once Upon a Book Club stuff down in the description below for you to go and check them out. This is what it looks like. Okay, so they have a little booklet here, and it says 12 Days of Book-mas Advent Calendar Edition by Once Upon a Book Club. Okay, so there are apparently 12 different little short stories in here, and you're supposed to read the story and then open the gift. So I think what I'll do is I'll just read you these little short stories. They're no more than a page or two long each. If you'd like to, you can skip to where I put this down and I start opening up a gift. Or if you'd like to hear the story so you understand the gift, then stick around and listen. Day 1. 'Tis the first day of Bookmas, and all through the land pages are rustling and books are in hand. The year had flown by, school soon would close. The holidays are coming, but bookworms wouldn't doze. For Bookmas is here, and so it is told. Once Upon a Book Club is celebrating with 12 gifts to behold. Today is day 1. Welcome to your first thrill. Prepare for an abundance of goodies and more to come still. For readers and bookworms, book dragons too, prepare to be bookish the next 12 days through. With a new story each day, you'll prepare for your prize, discover lands unknown, love family disguise, or perhaps through reading you'll find what you seek, a moment of comfort, maybe something unique. A friend in dark places, a hand to hold, a moment of peace, dare we be bold. So enjoy your 12 days, we truly hope you do. Enjoy gift number 1, a book we adored, and we think you will too. Until tomorrow, we must end this tale. Plenty of goodness to come. Enjoy your book club mail. Okay, so now we get to open day 1. How exciting! Okay, let's go ahead and pull out these. So we have day 4, day 6, there's day 2, day 7, day 3, day 10, day 8, day 11, day 9, day 5, day 12, and day 1. Oh my goodness, so many bookish goodies. It's so exciting. I love it. Okay, so here's day 1. So in here we have A Certain Age by Beatrice Williams. Pretty cover. Red in pages. The best-selling author of 100 Summers brings the roaring 20s brilliantly to life in an enchanting and compulsively readable tale of intrigue, romance, and scandal in New York society. As the hedonism of the Jazz Age transforms New York City, the iridescent Miss Teresa Marshall of Fifth Avenue and Southampton, Long Island, has done the unthinkable. She's fallen in love with her young paramour, Captain Ovian Rafrano, an aviator and a hero of the Great War. Though the battle-scarred Octavian is devoted to his dazzling socialite of a certain age and wants to marry her, Teresa resists. The old world is crumbling, but divorce for a woman of Teresa's wealth and social standing remains a high-stakes affair, and there is no need. She shares a gentle understanding with Silvio, the well-bred philanderer to whom she's already married. That is, until Teresa's impetuous bachelor brother, Ox, decides to tie the knot with Miss Sophie Fortescue, the naive young daughter of a wealthy inventor. Teresa enlists Octavian to check into the background of the reclusive Fortesque family. When Octavian meets Sophie, he falls under the spell of the charming ingenue, even as he uncovers a devastating family secret. As a fateful triangle forms, loyalties divide and old crimes are dragged into daylight, drawing Octavian into transgression and Teresa into the jaws of a bittersweet choice. Full of the glamour, wit, and delicious twists that are the hallmarks of Beatrice Williams' fiction, A Certain Age is a beguiling reinterpretation of Richard Strauss's comic opera Der Rosklevier, set against the sweeping decadence of Gatsby's New York. It's got deckled edges. Interesting. All right. Let's read story number 2. Day 2. Though they hadn't been together very long, Damon knew that their first Christmas he spent with his girlfriend, Jen, was going to be a special one. Despite the fact that they weren't planning on spending a lot on gifts and had actually set a budget for each other, so neither had to worry about the other overdoing it, he knew this was one that he would want to remember. Even though he knew plenty about her love of reading, he couldn't imagine getting her a book she didn't already own without spending hours sneaking through her bookshelves, and that was a risk he didn't want to take. After spending weeks hunting for the perfect gift, he had just finished putting the finishing touches on the wrapping when the doorbell chimed. Jen's radiant smile spread across her face as he opened the door and invited her in with a kiss. She jumped back when he reached out to hug her as she held a package in front of her. "I thought we set a budget," he frowned, suddenly nervous about the small box on his coffee table. "I promise I didn't go over it. It's just a bit big." She laughed melodically as she sauntered over to the table to place her gift next to his. They spent the next few hours chatting, watching a holiday special on TV, and eating the delicious meal Damon had spent the better part of his afternoon putting together. It was a careful dance, attempting to avoid the gifts on the table and hoping the other wouldn't ask. "Well, it's getting late," Jen remarked, stretching. "Should we open the gifts before we say goodnight?" They both turned their heads to stare at the packages wrapped with care on the table before them and began to banter about who should open first. "Honestly, I insist," she smirked as she pushed her gift into his hands before he could get another point in. She looked down at her palms as he began to open it, and she began talking incredibly fast before he could even slip the ribbon off. "I don't know why this came to mind, but I just looked up the meaning and I thought that it was kind of perfect for how I feel about you. And if you don't want it, I can totally take care of it. I don't mind at all. But I just genuinely felt like it represented us." She trailed off as the last bit of paper came away, revealing a small potted cactus encased in a hard plastic shell to prevent any accidental poking. "I read that the cactus represents longevity and endurance," he finished her sentence for her, as she looked up at him confused at how he would know such a random fact. He smiled and reached for his gift. "Open it." She peeled back the white paper with script text written all over it to reveal a dainty bookmark with a cactus dangling off the end. "I actually noticed you reading that botany book a few weeks ago, so I thought that I should get something that played off that. This just happened to match how I feel about you perfectly." He smiled shyly at her as her smile widened. "I absolutely love it." She reached toward him in an embrace as the two gifts they each had so feared to give sat between them. "You know, I've heard that even though the cactus is pretty durable, it typically does better if there are two people responsible for it." She looked at Damon confused. "You want to move in together?" Her surprise and her smile was all he needed to confirm that indeed they would be moving in together. And just like the cactus, the relationship would endure plenty, but it would be around for the long haul. Now we get to open our gift. So day 2 is in this envelope. Oh my gosh, this is so cute. So this is a, the paper says prickly cactus bookmark. And so it's a little metal, like clip-on bookmark that has a dangly thing that goes between your pages. And it's of a cactus. It looks like this. It just kind of clips on your page. But how stinking cute! Oh, I love it. Okay, day 3. Kara gazed through her living room window at the snow falling steadily from the sky as she wrapped the blanket tighter around her lap. As cautiously as winter had come, she still hadn't felt ready for it. She had just finished a wonderful book which sat closed on the table beside her as she sat in the warm and cozy bubble that a happily ever after creates. Her husband and 3 children were running errands, code, she was sure, for gift shopping for her, and she couldn't remember the last time her home had been so quiet. As she rose from the couch and slid across the floor, asking her smart speaker to play holiday music, she drifted into the kitchen, swaying with the beat. Ingredients began to be pulled from the cabinets as she tied her favorite apron around her waist, a bright yellow pattern with the phrase, "Kiss the bookworm," scrawled across the front. She hadn't had a moment to truly bake in a long time, so she wanted to ensure she did this right. Humming along to the music, she measured and weighed the ingredients, which came to her by memory, as she never touched the cookbook stacked high in the corner of the room. As she turned on the mixer, she slowly turned and danced across the kitchen floor as the beat picked up and a faster song began to play. Clark, the family's dog, watched intrigued from the corner of the room as Kara spun and shimmied across the kitchen and even laughed at herself at the feeling of joy rising from within herself. She had just spooned the dough into perfectly symmetrical circles and popped them into the oven when she heard the garage door begin to rumble, signaling the arrival of her fan club. The door popped open and a shout of "Mommy!" erupted through the house as Kara's daughter bounded into her arms, shaking half-melted snowflakes onto the floor. Her husband emerged through the doorway, carrying her toddler and holding the hand of their son, who was trying to manage the oversized shopping bag that dragged across the carpet behind him. He noticed his mother looking at him curiously, and he immediately ran out of the room to hide whatever it was he had been holding. "Daddy told me not to tell you where we went, so I'm not gonna," her daughter loudly whispered to her. Kara looked up at her husband as he shrugged and leaned down to kiss her. "Surprise?" he said, half chuckling, as he turned to carry the toddler to the bedroom. Kara looked down at her daughter and scooped her into a big hug. "Well, if Daddy told you not to tell, I suppose I won't ask, She smiled as she kissed the giggling girl's cheek as she turned back toward the oven, just as the timer chimed. Kara opened the oven door and was overcome with the scent of sugar and cinnamon, filling her home with even more warmth than had arrived with those she loved so much. As if on cue, the family appeared back in the kitchen doorway as she placed the cookie sheets on the counter. They watched her curiously, hoping she'd give them the go-ahead sooner rather than later. Even Clark moseyed over from his dog bed and gazed at her hopefully, slowly wagging his tail as though trying not to get his doggy wishes too high. Her face broke into a wide smile, unable to keep them waiting any longer. "Only if we don't tell Daddy I'll let you have one before dinner," she exclaimed, as she was overcome with a group hug filled with giggles and cookie crumbs, as the feeling of true joy was present once more. Okay, now we can open day 3. Day 3. This is the Kiss the Bookworm apron by Chicklet Designs, and I believe Chicklet Designs are the Once Upon a Book Club people. Oh, how cute! I like it. That is really cute. Perfect. I love this box so much. Okay, so maybe we should do this as like 4 days at a time, since I'm actually reading the stories, and make it into 3 different videos. Otherwise, I think the videos may be way too long, or the one video might be way too long. So I think I can do this in a 3-part video. So day 4 will be the last one we do on this one. Story time. Day 4. Paul never knew what to expect when his daughter Caitlin came home for the holidays. At best, they spoke pleasantries to each other and watched a football game together. Yet the majority of her visits were as though she hadn't even come home at all. The past 2 holiday vacations, she'd returned home from college and spend most of her visit in her room on her phone with her boyfriend, or out with high school classmates she hadn't seen since summertime. Paul was hopeful that this year maybe he'd be able to see her a bit more, like her freshman year break, before he had booked all her time out to friends and boys. Raising her on his own, he thought they'd always be close. When she was little, she was a definition daddy's girl and hung on his every word. Now he was lucky to get her attention long enough for her to pass the salt at dinner. He stood by the baggage carousel waiting to see her emerge from the escalator, anxiously checking his watch every few minutes. Finally, he saw her dark hair in the crowd on the moving stairs, and he raised his hand in a wave. "Hey, Dad," she said as she approached him. They embraced in an awkward one-armed side hug, partially due to the duffel bag over Caitlin's shoulder, and partially because neither of them was very good at being around the other anymore. They walked to the car in stiff silence, almost far enough apart that a stranger walking by may not even think they were together. The car ride home had minimal conversation, and once the front door to their little house was unlocked, Caitlin disappeared down the hall, phone in hand. Paul knew she wasn't a child any longer, and he couldn't expect her to spend all her time with him, but he had just hoped that maybe they'd be able to talk, even just for a moment, like they used to. He sat alone in front of the TV to eat his dinner and went to bed at his typical time, only comforted by the warm glow casting out from under her bedroom door. The clock read 2:16 a.m. when he opened his eyes, and no amount of tossing and turning would suffice to lull him back to sleep. He rose and wandered down the hallway, noticing the light off under Caitlin's door, and moseyed into the kitchen to make himself a cup of tea in hopes that it might ease his mind and send him back to his dreamless sleep. As the hot water began to boil, he heard footsteps behind him and turned to see Caitlin standing in the kitchen doorway. "I suppose it's a night for restless," he joked, but when he didn't receive any reaction, he turned back to the stove, waiting for the hot water, which at this rate would probably never boil. "Dad?" He turned and looked at his daughter and saw something he hadn't seen in a long time. A need for her father. "Hey, what's going on?" He turned toward her and immediately pulled her into an embrace, so vastly unlike their brief encounter at the airport. She wrapped her arms tight around him, and immediately in his mind, she was back to being 8 years old. "Gabe and I broke up," she choked out between sobs as he rubbed the back of her head and just let her cry. "I'm so sorry I put him before you, Dad." She looked up at him with tear-stained cheeks and smiled, a real smile, one he hadn't seen in years. "First you lost Mom, and I'm so sorry, Dad." He immediately pulled back from her and held her arms firmly. "Listen to me. Your mother didn't choose to leave, sweetheart. She didn't have a choice. You found your way back, and I would never hold it against you for trying to find yourself." He pulled her back into a hug before she saw that he too was beginning to tear up. "I'm just so glad to have you back." They stood like that until the kettle whistled them back to reality, and suddenly tea didn't seem like the right beverage anymore. Coffee was poured into Paul's go-to mug, while Caitlin took her mother's, which hadn't been used in years. A white enamel mug with the words, "Drink good coffee, read good books," pinned across the side in her mother's swoopy handwriting, painted on in one of her artistic phases. With warm cups in hand, they sat together until the sun rose, talking like they used to, as though the distance the last 2 years had put between them just melted away like the steam from their drinks. And for the first time in a long time, Paul knew this holiday had given him so much more than just a Christmas gift. Oh, that's a sweet story. Okay, day 4. Ta-da! Okay. This is a really cute box too. I really like it. We have a mug that says, "Drink good coffee, read good books." Love it! That's so cute. It's a little metal one too. Okay, so I think I'm going to end this video here for now, and I'll pick back up for part 2 for days 5, 6, 7, and 8. Which story did you like the best? And which gift did you like the best? comment down below and let me know. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you.